So some of you who have watched this channel for a little bit may have noticed that the profile picture for a while was of 3 young lads. Well, that guy's me, the one in the middle is Ramsey, and on the other end is Brett. We've been making short horror films for a long time. I figured I'd give a little explanation because this Project Rest is the first time I've worked this closely with Brett in quite some time, so it's a special one. And some people were pointing out how it was a little strange that there were 3 random children as the profile picture. So I'm finally changing it. But now for what you're here for. Rest was a bit of a different project for us. A little longer, some narration. We wanted to tell a slightly more ambitious story. Another huge change was that Hannah got the chance to play the antagonist this time around for the hallway scene.
Slowly, and you can walk off now. That might not be the right... Oh.
Leave me alone.
Aside from this, though, for the rest of the film, the cast and crew was just Brett and I. To talk a bit about our process, Brett is here as well.
Hi, I'm the one who you've probably seen crying throughout most of the film, but what you might not know is that I also did a lot of work behind the scenes as well.
Brett and I wrote the script together, which went mostly quite smoothly. And then we shot listed together. I put together some concept art in Photoshop to visualize how the man with the antlers would look, which I think actually translated very nicely into the film.
One of the conversations that Dylan and I had was about this eye shot, which was one of the things that I at least was most excited about in this film. We'd never really done all that much body horror before, and we wanted to make the hanging scene grosser than just a shot of me chilling in a noose, hence the Bloodshot Eyes. We were partly inspired by that one shot in Infinity War when Thanos chokes out Loki, because that was surprisingly gross. But it was also just a cool way to visually bookend the shot from earlier in the film where I'm marveling at the sight of the clouds passing by quickly, which is also shown through my eyes. Mirroring that with this similar, more brutal shot seemed like a fun way to bring the story full circle and show how my initial wonderment has turned into torment.
The music for this one was composed by Ryan Shreves. He's a composer in LA who's done work for feature films and tons of short films. I'm so happy with the work he did, and you can check out more of his work on his website and SoundCloud in the description below. There were a number of visual effects that were a challenge here. The opening fire shot was luckily not one of those. We just placed Brett in front of the green screen, I waved a light in front of him to emulate the light from the fire, and then in After Effects I added 2 fire plates, some fake lighting, and some distortion to create this inferno. The fast-moving cloud shot was more difficult. First, we shot a time-lapse of the clouds on a day when it looked best. Then we set up the camera on a tripod. I waved something around to cast these practical shadows on Brett to make it look like the shadows from the clouds were moving over him super quickly. Since a clear sky is basically a big blue screen, I keyed out the sky and put the time-lapse in its place. And then lastly, I just had to add these fake shadows over the trees to match the shadows on Brett and the clouds moving past them. The bathroom shot was also green screen. We could have done this more simply, but we wanted him to be overlapping with the reflection to help sell the effect. And to do that, we had to use green screen. For the arm cutting sequence, since Hannah didn't have a lot of time to film, we didn't have a makeup artist. So I used what little I had learned from her on previous projects to make this simple cut using scar wax on Brett's arm. I then placed skin from his other arm over the cut, tracked that onto his arm, and animated a mask to reveal the prosthetic wound. I also added some digital blood running through and out of the wound to add a little bit of realism. I was super excited about the idea of the forest turning red at the end of the film. Since the leaves were such a bright green, I figured we'd be able to key out the green and replace it with the red color. And luckily, it worked pretty well. For the shots where the red is falling down around him, I just animated a mask revealing the red color correction.
Another big conversation that we had to have was in regards to how we planned to hang me without, actually hanging me.
The first thing we tried was an absolute failure. Stuck me in a harness that was threaded under my shorts and shirt and hoisted me into the air, hoping to give the appearance that I was hanging from my neck for use in a wide shot. But it was a rock climbing harness, and all it did was make it look like I was sitting in an invisible chair. We ended up having to cheat it a little bit by cutting a bunch of close-ups together, including this one shot that I think sells the hanging pretty well. In reality, my feet are firmly planted on the ground. I'm just swaying around, and we shot it at a higher frame rate to give it a smoother feel and try to get the motion to look right.
The only effects we ended up doing on this sequence were simply to erase and replace some trees for the shot of Brett's feet dropping to hide the fact that he's dangling from a branch. Finally, for the antagonist, I blacked out the inside of the hood. The antlers ended up looking slightly out of place as they were originally shot, so I darkened them in post. We shot some reflective tape for the eyes,
and then I cut these out and tracked these onto the creature throughout.
For the final shot, I recreated that fake push-in effect that I had on Hatched by rotoscoping out the man with the antlers and then having him move towards the camera at a different speed compared to the background to create that depth feeling.
Thank you guys so much for watching. It was a lot of fun making this, and hopefully it resonated with you guys as much as it did with us.
It was fun to be able to release this during October. I hope everyone had a great Halloween.